Angela Predhomme is my guest for this episode. We talk about placements for film and TV, streaming, Facebook ads, and PR. Let's do it. This is the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. I'm your host, Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with me and indie music artists. Conversations intended to help other indie musicians be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Angela Predhomme found me with the help of a PR team. It all started with an ad she ran on another podcast. Interesting. One thing led to another, as the saying goes, and here she is in this episode. She almost fell through the proverbial crack of my email inbox, though. I've since set up a nice page to send guest inquiries like the one I got on Angela's behalf. If you're interested in being considered for an interview on this podcast like Angela was, just visit unstarvingmusician.com/guest. This podcast is being made possible by the support of generous listeners just like you. Let me tell you how you can be part of that support ecosystem. One, you can subscribe to the podcast. It helps other musicians and fans of those musicians find the podcast. That's a good thing. Or you can go to unstarvingmusician.com and join the community right there on the homepage. In joining, you will get an occasional email from me with tips, hacks, inspirational insights. It all comes from the hundreds of musicians that I've spoken to for the podcast and the Unstarving Musician Project. You could also pick up a copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, How to Get Booked and Paid What You're Worth Over and Over Again. It was written by me. It's available on Amazon and other fine ebook retailer websites. So before Angela, back to my guest, before Angela was able to get a good PR rep to work with her, she had to build her social following. That's what they told her. Go grow your following. So she did. She did a good job, too, and she shares some of the tips that she picked up along the way. After we recorded the interview, Angela told me I had a nice voice. She said that because she knows I'm a singer. She realized I'm a singer, and she was referring to my speaking voice. But she thinks I would be good at the crooning style of singing, like Michael Bublé or something like that. She thinks I could give it a rock edge, too, because I told her I like rock, Maybe she's just being nice. I don't know. But it was the second compliment I got on my voice today. It was from her and another interview that I did. So I'll take it. Thank you, Angela and Joshua Van Ness, who I interviewed earlier today. You both encouraged me to sing more. I might send Angela the gift of a personal video performance. Maybe. Here's me and Angela Predhomme. Angela, so thank you for spending time with me this afternoon, and hopefully the weather is going to cooperate because as I mentioned before we hit record, I lost power for a few, but if I do lose power, I hope that we're set up. I think we're set up to fall back to a different system here, so we should be good. But yeah, thank you for joining me up for a conversation today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Of course, and do extend my thanks to Audrey. We were just talking about Audrey, who connected us. And when I asked about her, I was a little curious to know if you have been in the past, if you work with anyone on the PR front, or if you mentioned to me that her company reached out, they'd heard you on a podcast and reached out to see if you'd be interested in doing some other spots. So I'm just kind of curious if this is something completely new for you. I gathered the podcast thing's a little bit new for you. I'm not your first, but do you work with others to help you get the machine of your music going?
This year I've really worked with several people. And yeah, I am new to podcasting this year. And it all started when so I've been to this conference a couple times in Nashville called Music Biz.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm really kind of a student of marketing and promotion because, you have to be being in music. And, I had heard a couple different times about the statistics from advertising on podcasts that it's a really high return more than other things because it's a very targeted audience. So anyways, I started looking into advertising in podcasts, and then I did a small ad on one podcast, and that person asked me to be a guest. So I did that, and then it just sort of grew from there. And I realized, it's really pleasant, and I am comfortable with it, and I enjoy it, and I have a good microphone, and why not, So, but yeah, I've had other people. I've worked with an LA publicist this year. And also now I'm working with a company on the East Coast that does PR promotion. Like they're helping to promote my gigs, trying to get me like TV or radio spots before the gigs in other places. And I've done a lot of things. And as far as online, I've tried a few different things online, but I'm not doing anything right now as far as online promotion. Besides my own Facebook ads, I do Facebook ads, and I do that myself.
Okay. And are you happy with, in terms of the publicist and the PR people that you've worked with this year? Are you pretty happy with the outcome? Are you still kind of learning, or how's it going?
Well, I am happy with the outcome. The LA person got me some really good things. Her name was Leslie Zimmerman of Leslie Z Media, and she got me some written interviews in some pretty good national things. There's one called Thrive Global, which is started. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's great. I hadn't heard of it before, but yeah, I guess it was started by Ariana Huffington. And so I had a rising star interview in there, and she got me on a radio website called All Access, an interview on there, and she got me in Pro Sound magazine. And so she did some good things for me, but she's a professional publicist, and that's her whole career. I mean, honestly, it's kind of cost prohibitive. I couldn't keep doing that because it was expensive.
I get it.
It's not like I'm happy with the exposure. I mean, PR is like it's like free advertising, right? So you get written up in editorial things or whatever. And I mean, that's how she approaches it. So you're looking to get editorial coverage, and that you're not paying directly for, but you're paying, a publicist who has a way better chance of getting that than I would by myself. So anyways, I mean, I was happy with the results and what she got, although it didn't like magically turn into like an immediate financial return for me, but I didn't expect it to.
Good. Well, I'm glad that it's been a good experience, and I love asking the question. I get a mix of answers, but as of late, the folks that I've talked to, and I guess there's a pattern that perhaps you fall into when I'm getting outreach from anyone like, say, Audrey's company, which I realized may be neither involved in the publicist activity or the PR activity, although I suppose it is in a way on the PR side. Artists that I'm getting connected with through outreach, like what Audrey did, are generally having a good experience. And then I've spoken to some where I've had no interaction. I'm not even really sure, and that I can. The correlation may be too weird.
Well, yeah, the thing with Audrey, and yeah, that's PR too. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So podcasting is just another, form of PR, and
Yeah, so I've had some folks that are like, no, it was a disaster, and they're gun shy about doing anything. But I know that, like with anything, sometimes we have to try to see if it's a good fit, and not everyone who's out there selling the services necessarily knows what they're doing. Tell me about you perked my interest in the podcast ad that you did. Can you tell me what that was, how it worked, what it looked like, what it sounded like?
Okay. So I did an ad. I think I got like a 30-second spot or something on a podcast that I thought was sort of a good fit. And I found it on a website that was connecting advertisers. I actually don't remember what that was called right now. It was a website where you could, and I'm sure people could just search for it, but so you could buy different lengths of spots. You could buy where it went in the podcast, if it's at the beginning, the middle, or the end. So I did a 30-second spot, and since I'm a producer and stuff, I created my own little ad. So I did a voiceover, and I faded my music down. I had it play a little bit, and then I faded it down, and I talked over it like, hey, this is Angela Predhomme, and this is my new song. So I just did something like that.
Nice. Yeah. I
Yeah.
assumed it was kind of what you described, but you're the first musician I've had on the podcast that talked about it. And also the first, which I think was a good thing, that you were immediately asking me about download numbers, and, you were interested in listenership. I think, a lot of the people I talk to are, well, like yourself, they're kind of have some level of interest or excitement in the conversation, trying to help others, and also just getting a little bit of exposure. But you certainly have come in with a little bit of premeditated, it's not the right word, but a little bit of forethought about why, you would want to do it. So I think that's nice. I was listening to what I believe is your latest release, Love, right? That's your latest one?
Yes. Yeah, it's my latest.
Yeah. tell me about it in terms of compared to your past work. And I was also noting that it is like what you and I probably both remember as a full length album. So it's not just an EP or it's not there's no shortage of material on there. So tell me about it.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for asking. So this album is a couple years in the making, and I was happy to finally get it out there. I actually had it done like, at the beginning of the year, but I was waiting to get all the publicity in line.
Hmm.
And, here's an interesting tip for your listeners if they're, music oriented, if they're kind of similar. So this publicist that I worked with, the LA one, she had me build my social media. She wouldn't promote it until I built my social media enough. And she said, 5 digits is good, but we can take some less than that. So I mean, on my Facebook, I have 10,000 over 10,000 followers, my Facebook music page, and she needed those numbers so she could successfully promote it. And I think I have like 3,600 on Twitter, and you know what? That took me a lot of months and a lot of money. I did Facebook ads, I did other ads. I really, I really, researched so much how to build that. And it took me a lot of time. And, here's a little trick is they're not all US, I mean, US is expensive, advertising Facebook to only people in the US costs a lot more than if you're open to like Europe and South America and you're in Panama. So opening it up more globally allowed me to build those listeners for cheaper. And it still wasn't like, I mean, it cost me 3 digits to build it to that, not 4 digits. So, okay, so you asked me about the album. Yeah, I was like, what's your original question? I know on a tangent. But yeah, so this album, so I had it done. I waited to promote it until I built up all that stuff, which was really hard work. And this album, I'm really happy about because I produced myself. I don't think, I didn't go into the studio at all for it. I produced it in my home studio. I had musicians come over and we recorded in my home studio. Some of the songs don't have any outside musicians and are all me, and some of the songs do have outside musicians. And I went through a lot. Every stage I had a lot of attention to it. The songwriting. I'm part of a songwriting feedback group that's local, and we go and we share our songs and we give feedback about it. So I tweak the songs a lot. I would write a song and it's like, well, how does this hit you guys? What do you think of it? Do you understand it? Do you feel it? And people would have certain things that made me change things. And so I got the songs to exactly where I wanted them to be. And then I produced them in a way that was my vision, which was really great because I worked with other producers in the past. And even though they were like super talented, somebody else's vision is never exactly the same as yours. Like if you imagine a painting of a peach or something, like somebody else's painting of a peach is going to be different than your painting of a peach. So anyways, this was my painting of a peach. This was my vision of how this was produced, and that was really fulfilling for me. And the album generally, the lyrical content is generally inspirational and uplifting and positive. And there's a couple songs that aren't. One is Let It Play On While I Cry, which is actually one of my favorite songs. It's this soulful, it's kind of inspired by Sam Cooke, actually, that style, this old soul style. And that one is really about release. It's like I'm still trying to help people. Like, if something's bothering you, just let it out. Just let it out so you can release it and get over it. So the intention of every song on the album is to help people and to inspire them and to make them feel better.
That's so nice. And
Thanks.
the title is appropriate, even more appropriate than Love. I like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's like, this is what I have to offer,
Yeah, that's great. I was looking at your bio or your about you and on your website, and I saw a lot of credits for, I guess, what are placements or maybe some licensing, a world I'm not super familiar with, but I'm just going to read a short list. But I saw you have things on a Hallmark movie, a Lifetime show, a TLC show, commercials for a couple or more, two or more very well-known companies, and a closing credit placement in a major film. Has this type of work been part of your music world for most of your career, or are you having just done this album, self-produced an album? I assume you would have taken a little time off from all other things while you're doing that, but yeah, where is it currently in your career?
Well, it's interesting. I've been involved in licensing from the very beginning. My first album was in the very end of 2008, and on that album, I sold a song to a Burbank studio.
Hmm.
And, it was just something, this is something I've been pursuing, throughout my career because, see, I'm in Michigan and I'm not in LA or Nashville or New York. And so licensing is something that, you can do from anywhere. You can do your songs and send them to places that might use them. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done all along. I've sent my songs to places that might use them. And a lot of them are sitting in libraries, music libraries. So I've researched music libraries and I sent my work to a lot of music libraries, and that's all I've done. And then so the placements I've gotten in film and TV aren't from some connection. I don't know anybody. I mean, I'm where I live is in the country. It's isolated. It's in Michigan. I'm like an hour outside of Detroit. And so, just in these libraries, there's all this meta tagging, and it's like, so the Hallmark movie is a holiday song, and that one is called Christmas Time with You. It was a good fit. It just was a good fit for this Hallmark movie. And so in the movie it's in is called Christmas on Honeysuckle Lane, which is airing a lot this season. So it was out last year. It's being played a lot. And my song opens that movie. So I actually did the song in 2014 with a co-writer. Somebody else wrote the lyrics, Paul Robert Thomas, who's actually in the UK.
Hmm.
And then, so I had this sheet of lyrics and I did everything else. I made the melody, I produced it, and then I just sent it off to music libraries. And last year, before Thanksgiving, I got an email saying that my song had been licensed. And that came from Song Trader. So Song Trader is a website and it doesn't end in ER, it just ends in R. So it's like Song Trader, with the R.
Hmm.
And so that's where I got that one. And but I wasn't actively pitching it or anything. It was just like sitting in their library. So, that's how all my placements have worked, really. Some of them I didn't find out till after. Mostly I didn't find out till after.
So you've been doing it for a good while then. Do you still feel good about that facet of feeding the business of your music today and in moving forward?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I've been kind of, playing and toying with the balance of that, because there's this whole world that is, telling you, oh, to be an artist, you have to do this and you have to tour and you have to do that. And, like I'm supposed to want certain things. And then there's this other side of it, people that are film and TV composers, they're more just people, with a home studio that crank out music. And there are people that are doing a song a day, and they're putting them out there and they have thousands. There are people with hundreds and thousands of songs. And so then the licensing becomes back end royalties for them, and it's like maybe only 5% of what they do is picked up, but then it's replayed over and over. I mean, one of my songs was in Dance Moms, a popular show in 2015, and it's still being replayed, all around the world, and people search for the song every day. That one's called Epiphany. So it's a long game. It's like you try to do your best work and you put it out there and you send it to libraries and forget about it. Just forget about it and keep doing more stuff, keep doing more stuff. So I've been kind of trying to do both. I mean, I've been making albums that are, kind of to a radio standard, they're professionally mixed and mastered. And, well, and it has to be that standard for film and TV too. But I've taken all this care in the songwriting to be like radio quality songwriting. Every song develops, there's a chorus and a verse and everything works together and it's sort of little pieces of literature, but the film and TV world, you don't really have to necessarily do that because maybe they're going to use it for 30 seconds, maybe they're going to use it for 10 seconds. So it's more about a sound. It's more like, does it have this cool vibe? Do they like the vocal? What is the general feel and the general vibe of it? So I kind of try to balance those things with writing really good songs that are radio ready, but also they could be used in film and TV.
I've talked to a couple of other artists on the podcast who are in the world of placements and licensing, and one of them exclusively works from his home studio and makes his living that way. Another one loves touring, has a lot of great opportunities with well-known producers and artists. He's written some songs that have provided some mailbox money just because of the song itself. And then he's done really well in this world of placements and licensing. I've seen different mixes. So anyway, I completely see the value of the approach that you have. And I do hear some of the same too. I guess it depends on who you talk to and what market they're in or what market their clients are in. But, I hear some of that. You've got to be playing constantly. But at the same time, I see artists like yourself who are meeting their goals for their music career by doing some mix of other things that don't necessarily involve getting out and performing every week.
Yeah, I mean, I did just come off a pretty. I played a lot this fall, and I had like a Midwest tour, and the farthest I went was Pittsburgh, which from Detroit it's like a good 5 hours, and I'm playing in Cincinnati in January 10th. So yeah, I am getting out and around, and I had some other dates that were away like that, and I wouldn't want to. I mean, it is fun. It is fun to get out and meet new people and be appreciated like that. And also, it gives you a reason to promote. Like my Pittsburgh gig, I ran ads, Facebook ads for Pittsburgh and, targeted toward people that like to see live music, maybe acoustic music, because I mean, nobody's going to be, doing every major city all the time with ads, but it kind of, it sort of gave me a reason to promote in that area. And, and then I'm, trying to do radio and TV spots, promotional spots for those. So, it is just about getting your name out there, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, but I wouldn't want to do it like all the time, because I have a dog and I don't know. I'm not like a on the road kind of person all the time. So
sure. Are you able to, with Facebook ads, are you able to track, feel any of those of actual conversions? Like, so for instance, if your goal is you're doing ads for a show that's in another city, are you able to see that those are literally bringing people to your show on it? And at what level?
yeah, I've had people tell me they saw it on Facebook and that's why they came. Yeah.
Very cool. That's good. That's good feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Facebook ads, it's its own world, and you sort of have to just be careful with your targeting. And, there's a lot of information online about it, so I'm always tweaking it and then so a lot of times I'll get something will pop up that there's like a free call with a marketing expert. Because if you're starting to spend some money on Facebook, they will
they target
help
you.
Yeah, they'll help you and they'll call you and they'll, or they'll have a free consultation and those people are like the Facebook marketing experts.
Oh,
so,
nice. Yeah, that's nice.
So, it's something I've just been sort of working at. But yeah, I have seen those conversions. Yeah.
No, good. Well, now I was going to say, I believe you're the first artist I've talked to that is doing Facebook ads. That's not completely true, but I don't think that I've spoken to any that are doing original music, but they're just, some sort of working musician that's really just kind of shooting. Probably they're not doing it as methodically as you have been, but it's making me wonder, of course, now how many of the other artists I talked to have been doing this, and it's just something I hadn't thought to ask about, and you just brought it up. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it's definitely not limited to original music. I mean, I think that, covers might be even more popular, I mean, I think, going out and being an unknown artist playing originals, it's not easy. People usually want to hear songs they know. But, the last gig I did was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is on the west side of the state. And I had several people who wanted the originals, and that was awesome. So, yeah.
Nice feeling. I want to go back to something you said closer to the beginning of our conversation, and that was you mentioned the Music Biz podcast or conference, rather, in Nashville, I believe it was. Do you recall what time of year that actually occurs?
Yeah, it's in May.
Okay.
It's May. I think next year is May 11th to 14th. It is the music business. So it's not, artist oriented or creativity oriented. It's business oriented. And it's a big conference. I think there's over 2,000 people that go, and it's growing every year. It's at a hotel there. It's at the JW Marriott, which is crazy expensive to stay at. But, I've stayed not there. But they have a good first time rate, like for first time people, there's a reduced rate. It's an awesome conference. Like Spotify presents, Apple Music presents, YouTube presents, SoundCloud presents. So there's presentation sessions from them. And those are the actual people from Apple, from Pandora. And you can talk to them and ask them questions. And then there's all this other stuff. There's legal stuff. There's all this label stuff. There's so much.
Cool. Yeah. I feel like I have actually read about it online, or perhaps one of my other guests had mentioned it, and I was curious to keep an eye on it. I'm always looking for conferences that I should be attending, and that one falls right around my birthday. Maybe I go see my younger brother who's in the Nashville area and go to that conference. So how many times have you been?
You should. I've been twice. And this year I submitted to organize a panel session. And I don't know if I'm accepted yet. I may not be, because a lot of the people giving panel sessions are like from a big name or from a company that is in the industry, and just being an independent. I mean, I don't know if they'll accept me, but I'm going to try. And my pitch is about converting more people to the new music economy, which is digital. And this is from my personal experience. Okay. So I've gone to a lot of gigs, and for some reason, the people that come to performances, a lot of my performances, my music is mellow, it's laid back, it's acoustic piano. So it is generally an older demographic. And a lot of them, they're not comfortable with streaming. They're not comfortable with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that really is the new music economy. So, I'd like to do a panel session and have other guests just talk about that, about how you get people, because I didn't even make CDs for this album yet. I might, but it's such a big expense. And then I go and, a lot of times I don't sell that many, and people just, in my streaming numbers, I'm always promoting streaming, and people can stream from anywhere. I actually have a lot of streams from South America and Europe. So anyways, yeah, so I'm interested in that, and how you get like the holdouts, the people that aren't comfortable with streaming, how you can, ease them into it.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that. I was personally interested in what the pitch, was, what it was that you were pitching to the conference. I wish you luck. I hope that you get selected. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, thanks. I think it'd be good to talk about.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the vibe of your music, and I was listening again today, and I'm sure I checked it out like the first time I took a moment to look at your work and listen to it, and I was reminded, like, this reminds me of Nora Jones. I like this.
Oh yeah, thanks. She's so great. Yeah.
And I was also looking at your influences, which I don't know why, and actually, after I gave it a few seconds, I thought it made perfect sense. But like the first ones that I saw were the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And I see some others, like everything you had listed there, you and I have in common in terms of musical tastes. But if somebody would have asked me to guess, and had I not, maybe given it too much thought, I'm not sure I would have gone there. But I would have said, this is what it reminds me of, and maybe I would have still hit on a couple of them. So, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, my first instrument's piano, and I used to gig with just acoustic guitar, and I used to do, cover gigs and all that, like in the 2008, 9, 10. So as a songwriter and a piano player, it's like you really go deep into the composition and the music theory. And so things like 3 and 4 chord songs usually bore me to death. So the Beatles had a lot of really more sophisticated composing in there. They're really interesting songs, and they use interesting chord changes, and and stuff like that. And I like the blues. I really like soul and blues. So that's where like the Rolling Stones come in and all that. It just feels good to me, so and then I take this sort of Nora Jones style vocal and that's my music.
That's all great. I, grew up listening to both the Beatles and the Stones. I have a couple of Rolling Stones framed posters adorning the walls of the room that I'm recording from. So they're among my favorites for sure.
Did you notice in Skype when I was like on Skype and I had signed on and I had like clicked you or something, it said just waiting on a friend, which is totally a Stones reference.
Yes, yes, it is.
Skype, yes, Skype is on there. That's funny.
No, yeah, that was me. That was my status.
Oh, I thought Skype did that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's my
okay.
Skype status. So
Oh, that's cool.
maybe I'll update it to see if anyone else comments on the reference. But that was exactly
Yeah.
what it's from. So speaking of the new music economy, I very recently had a guest on here who I'm talking about for the second time today, who spent a couple of decades in LA as a very successful producer, and he's a musician, which is probably super common, right? And
Producers better be musicians or I don't trust them.
right, and he started a new chapter of his career. He's left the LA production scene, and he's taking his own music, focusing on writing his own music and performing. Currently in Malta, in his home base of Malta, and he was talking about the whole new music business and new music economy, and he mentioned the big opportunity as he saw it in this new economy that didn't exist before, and that is to be of service to others, which is something he's learning about. But he said, it's enabled him, as you've alluded to in some of your own efforts, it's enabled him to connect with people from places in the world that would have otherwise never known about him. And he admits to he's still figuring it all out. And we were talking specifically about social media. And so, he'll try things. And we talked about the psychology of social media too, as it affects those of us who are trying to find our audience, create a brand, get our music out to the world, and the ups and downs of all that. And he had a nice attitude, embracing the successes as well as the challenges, or celebrating them rather. So I mentioned it, and I want to ask you about, as part of looking at the new economy, you're doing Facebook ads, and streaming is at the top of your mind. Are you doing much work or a lot of work in building your community online, be it on social, via email, combination of both, video?
Yeah, I've worked at building all of those things. One thing I did before my album release in September is I tried this little video show that I did, and I thought it was unique. So I did a thing live on Facebook every Wednesday, and it was about Michigan wine. So because they make some wine here in Michigan, and it's not like California or anything, but they're working at it, and there's like a lot of vineyards here, and so I did a little show called Wine, Song, and Good Vibes. And so it had three components. Each week I talked about a different Michigan wine, and then I did a song, and usually it was a theme, so I related the things. It's like, and here's a song, and then I would perform a song live, just, and then Good Vibes, I just talked about positive things. And so it was usually 15, 20 minutes of this live video thing, and then I would put it on YouTube. So I did that to help build a community. And, and I think that did help to build my YouTube subscribers and things like that before my release. But, building a community online is, it's really not easy because, you're competing with everybody. Everybody's trying to do that. Everybody wants our attention. I mean, people are just clawing for our attention in all sorts of ways. And I don't know. I don't think that like a community on social media is necessarily the end all be all. I mean, I want to get on people's playlists. I don't, I would rather have my songs be on their playlist than be interested in every aspect of my life. It's like, okay, so today I'm doing this. Look, I'm changing my guitar strings now. It's, I mean, but there's, there are people like that. I don't really think it's my demographic. I mean, my demographic, isn't young. And there are those young people that are, teens and 20, maybe 20s, but where they're really fascinated by musicians. It's like musicians are so cool. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to make music that people like and enjoy listening to. I'm not trying to get people that see me as this elevated status and want to follow my every move. I mean, I'm not trying to be a star. I'm not like needy of the attention. So, yeah, I don't try super hard. What I've seen be successful at online communities are where you're helping other people, like where people have a community where it's like they're offering something. It's like, this can help you do this. Let's make a Facebook group, or let's, have this that does this. And, Instagram is really popular. I don't like on Instagram that you can't have links. That just bugs me, but it's a very popular format.
Yeah, I guess, there are some third-party workarounds, but it would be nice if you could just have them right in there. But I get I don't like it that much, but I get their model, that they're using. So is there going to be a second season of Wine Songs and Good Vibes?
I don't know. I kind of did the season. I kind of did the series thinking I have no commitment to the, it's like, I'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll do more. Maybe I won't. I'll just kind of see where it takes me. I'll see how I feel. It was kind of fun. I might, I felt like I ended up getting a certain amount of pressure to do things like, okay, well, you got to have a really great microphone and you got to do this and you should be doing that and you should be doing this. And like some people criticize the recording quality, and it's like, I don't know, just some little Facebook Live thing. I was just looking to do it just quick and cheap and simple. And it was a certain amount of pressure, I mean, live video, and then you're going to put it on Facebook. It was kind of nerve wracking. I'd have to plan out, have a general outline. It's like, okay, this and that. And I had to do a certain amount of research about the wines and talk about them. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that I may do something. I may, focus on California wines or something like that, change it up.
I like it. The whole wine thing speaks to me personally, and of course, music. I like the theme that you did. There's a couple that I had on the podcast that go by their last name are Waters, and the name of their music project, their primary thing is the Waters. And they had, I don't know if they've been doing it lately. I need to check in with them, but they had a Facebook Live thing they were doing. But they've got this whole, talent thing down. They're quite good. She's a vocalist, and he's a songwriter, guitarist, and does some singing as well. They have this natural comedic edge that they would put into theirs. So they had a similar, thing as you. I think they started doing it, and then you've got this commitment going, I guess, self-imposed, pressure about it. But they did it for a while, and then, they stopped, like, sort of hit the pause button. But I would love to check in and see if they've done it again, because they're pretty cute, and the songs, of course, are great. So
I think that podcasting actually seems lower pressure than video. I mean, podcasting with video, I mean, that's basically what I was doing, even though it was short. I don't know, video adds a whole other technical aspect to it. And then, I don't know, you have to worry about how everything looks. And I had to clean up my little home studio and things like that and make sure the lighting was right and everything. So, there's a lot of factors, but it was interesting.
yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. And I have been wanting to get in this world for myself, but I've got to get some lighting. I mean, just really, when I have done some videos, I'm like, oh, it's pretty terrible. But they tell you, don't even let that stop you. Just, put some content out and see where it goes and make it better as you go. But there's a lot to think about for sure. So I get it.
Well, and if you're trying to build a YouTube audience or anything like that, like one thing I learned from the YouTube sessions at the Music Biz conference, from YouTube themselves, they said post regularly. So if you post regularly, just keep putting out content and just keep doing that. And that helps to build, that community.
Sure. More pressure, man. Keep it regular.
I know.
It's the same with podcasting, of course. And in fact, So this will publish in January. Did I tell you that? Your episode will publish in January.
Do you know when in January?
I do. I'll look that up while I'm telling you this, but what was I going to tell you? I don't know. Just talking about regularity of it. I've had a lot of self-imposed pressure about doing weekly episodes, and yours is going to publish the 31st of January, by the way.
Oh, okay, thanks.
In 2020, this is the Wayback Machine. For those of you that are listening, we're recording at the end of 2019 in December. And I decided it really happened at Thanksgiving week. I decided I'm going to push the schedule out a week, and I'm going to make it every other week until I'm not even sure until when. I may go into the new year and be an every other week thing. But yeah, just speaking of regularity, and maybe the only thing of value in what I said is for those of you that are listening and creating either video, live video, or thinking about a podcast, that it is great to have a consistency, but I think it's mostly about consistent putting something out there, and regularity is great. I have beat myself up a lot to have something up every week, but I know that as I move to every other week, the earth's not gonna stop. My listeners won't stop listening, and I will surely have the same opportunities to grow the listenership as I do it weekly. So,
Well, you know what? I think, at the end of the day, I mean, you got to make you happy. People can strive and strive and strive for whatever, but if it's putting all this pressure and making you miserable, it's not worth it. Because, I mean, what's the payoff? It's not like you're earning a big paycheck, with every podcast, a sustainable full-time income or something. So, I mean, it's just mostly for your own fun and enjoyment and like for enlightening other people and sharing people's stories. And, so, I mean, I think you got to keep the energy of it good. I think you got to do what feels right to you. And if it feels like too much pressure, then I think it's great to cut back.
indeed. So, lest I forget before we wrap up, you can find out everything about Angela at angelapredhomme.com, and Angela's last name is spelled Predhomme, and I'm going to put it all in the show notes. So wherever you get your favorite podcasts, you'll be able to find out about everything she's doing, and you can find her on all the cool streaming services. So you can find her music anywhere you get your music as well. Are you, since we are coming to the close of the year, you just wrapped up an album project that you said you'd finished recording it earlier in the year, but you've gone through all this promotional activity. Hopefully you're taking a deep breath, a relaxing breath now, but do you have your sights on anything special in the new year?
I am just looking at expanding more promotion, and I would like to try and play some good festivals. I'd like to get into some music festivals, and I think, I'm going to really start pushing that in January. I mean, a lot of them, are already booked. I think music festivals in the summer, some start booking in the fall. Some of them start booking, after Christmas and in the early spring. So I'm looking to get out to some music festivals and, hopefully play and be a part of those and just keep making great music. I'm looking to write more and record more. And that's what I like to do. I mean, I'm just a creative person. I really like the creative process.
I love that. I love creative people and creative process too. I don't know if you're interested, but if you are, maybe listeners are also thinking about festivals. I think a lot of people that in music would love to do festivals. I had a guy on the podcast way back in episode 58. His name is Roger Blevins Jr., and he has an Austin-based band that started in Dallas-Fort Worth called Mingo Fish Trap. And they have built their career, Roger has, on festivals. And I don't know if that you're in a different genre, but he talks a bit about that journey, and he seems like a real nice guy. I need to check in with him, but maybe it's an episode worth checking out for any of you who are on a similar pursuit. And he's a pretty nice guy, so I venture to say that if you reached out to him, he might even be open to a conversation with you for, I don't know, tips, hacks, lessons, whatever.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm also looking to probably collaborate in the new year. I mean, I found that doing everything can be good. It's like, yeah, if I do everything, all the money is mine, but I feel like I can do more and be more efficient if I, collaborate with some other people sometimes. So yeah, I guess in the new year, I'm also looking to collaborate. So if you're interested in, co-writing, co-producing, long distance, remote, just look me up and get in touch.
That's great, putting it out there. I love it. Well, Angela, thank you for spending time with me today. I will definitely be in touch as we get close to the date of publishing your episode, and I hope that we'll stay in touch beyond that.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, it was really fun. Thank you so much for having me, Roberto.
You're most welcome. Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Have you heard of Bandzoogle? Yep, they're powering websites for musicians all over the world. Their easy system will get you online fast. They have tons of mobile-friendly templates to help you custom design your site and content. It's built for musicians by musicians. They make it easy to sell merch, grow your email list, integrate your socials, and they offer support from a musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Plans are affordable. Go to bandzoogle.com to start a free trial, and be sure to use the promo code Robonzo to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code Robonzo, ROBONZO. Look for show notes and links to most everything mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. Thanks so much for listening. With a whole lot of gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell.